Unfiltered. Like you're in another world, like you zoned out. You know what I'm saying?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Unfiltered. I'm your host, Georgii Speakman, and today's beautiful guest is Taryn Williams, all the way from Australia, Sydney to be precise. She is a multi-award-winning founder and CEO of many startups, primarily in the cross-section of media, tech, and talent. I was lucky enough to get connected with Taryn many moons ago through a mutual connection, and I've since had the opportunity to witness her entrepreneurial journey sort of from afar. But Taryn recently put out a social media post that caught my attention just because I read it and thought, well, she's very brave. It was raw, honest, and vulnerable, but also very pragmatic. But it reflects an oh so common occurrence that does happen in the world of startup as a part of this very complex entrepreneurial journey. So let's welcome Taryn to the show. How are you today, babe?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to finally jump on here and have a chat.
Absolutely. Likewise. I'm so delighted to see your beautiful face and have you on the show. Thank you for being a part of it. It is new, so we're still building, but it is a female-only show, really to elevate the voices of women in that cross-section of entrepreneurship, creativity, and the human experience. I think also often, obviously, all those things seamlessly interconnect in a lot of the work that we do, particularly in your space. A hell of a lot of creativity, but you shared your very human experience amidst your entrepreneurial journey just recently. And before we get into that, I would love for you to share a little bit more about how you founded your own entrepreneurial identity, spirit, and motivation. How did that all kick off for you? How did you get started, and what you're kind of focused on now and today?
Yeah, so people often ask me if entrepreneurs are born or made, and I reflect on my journey and I think, oh gosh, my parents weren't entrepreneurs, they weren't business owners. My dad had an incredibly strong work ethic, but I started my first business at 21, a traditional full service modeling agency, which I still own to this day. And I've kind of always just identified problems, challenges, opportunities in projects that I'm working on, or sort of at a macro level, like looking at the landscape and gone, I can fix that, or I want to change that, or that could be done better. So I think inherently maybe there's something in entrepreneurs where it's just in our DNA. We just have this itch that needs to be scratched to make the world better or to change things. Maybe not always for the better, but
Right.
so my first business was a traditional full service modeling agency, and then about
Yes. That
7
was
years,
Wink, right?
Wink, yes, which I still
Yeah,
own, which is
I remember.
19 years old, which is
I can't
crazy.
believe it.
Such a
Yeah,
beautiful business,
congratulations.
and
It's a huge feat.
it's thank you. And it just wild the difference between growing a bootstrap business that grew organically, has had year-on-year growth every year for 19 years. Amazing. We've got about 450, 500 models under management across Australia. The difference between that and growing a high growth tech company, which was my second business, The Right Fit, which we raised venture capital for, completely different journey, right? You've got investors from day one or virtually from day one. You're growing at an absolute rate of knots. You have a high cost of building the platform to start with. And that business was a two-sided marketplace. So on one side, we had all different kinds of creative talent. So photographers, models, influencers, makeup artists, stylists, anything that you might need for a creative production. And on the other side of the marketplace were anyone that might need to buy those people for a creative campaign and hire them. So photographers, creative directors, marketing managers, PR agencies, digital agencies, big corporates. And so I scaled that business to about 17,000 talent and about 11,000 clients, predominantly across APAC. We did have clients and talent in the US and UK, but predominantly APAC. And I sold that business about 18 months ago, which was a whole journey on its own, going through an exit and that was an amazing period. But I had also started another business, crazy, during that time, which was Hash Gifted, which is a platform that connects brands and influencers purely for contra gifting. So for influencers, it's like a dating app. They swipe left and right on products and services that they might receive. and brands. They can connect it to their Shopify, or they can just list products manually, and services, hotel rooms, restaurants. And when the two parties connect, and the content's created, we capture it all automatically into the platform. So that brands can then use it for advertising, or they can see the performance of posts, or use it in their marketing collateral. So yes, it's sort of been the never-ending entrepreneurial journey. After selling The Right Fit, I really thought I need to take some time out. The intention was to originally take a 12-month sabbatical. But unfortunately, my co-founder and Hash Gifted left the business at about the 6-month mark. And so I had to move back to Australia and restructure that business, which has kind of been the evolution of what got us to the LinkedIn post this week.
Didn't want to make any assumptions, but I sort of put two and two together. We'll loop back on that in a second, but hang on a sec. You say you relocated back to Australia. Where did you relocate? I've missed that part.
Yeah. So I was doing a little bit of a global tour to see where would I like to live in the world? Where could I be based? And I really knew that I spent probably a good 3 years working on some self-reflection and trying to understand myself as a human being, and what my drivers were, what my motivators were. I had an amazing mentor, an incredible psychologist, and I knew that if I stayed in Australia, I would not be able to restrain myself from getting involved in the business and getting my hands dirty and going 110% on something else. And I knew that I needed distance, emotional and physical distance from the business, to really recharge and have time to reflect and sort of step back. And I think process, The Right Fit was such a big journey, and exiting that company, and it took a huge emotional and mental toll growing and building that startup, raising multiple rounds of capital. And, it was a really big journey, and I really needed time out to process that, and the toll that it took. So I was living in Panama, actually. I was engaged at the time.
Of all places.
Yeah. So I was engaged to someone, and we'd moved to Panama. He was originally born in Panama. So part of moving back to Australia was sort of the breakdown of that relationship had to happen as well. So it was a big, tumultuous, taxing time.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah.
Yeah, life changes. Life is so unpredictable and crazy, and how it takes us on all these twists and turns and all the things. So there's lots and lots to unpack here. I want to loop back on your initial comments of just how you got started in your journey. And often people associate entrepreneurialism, to both sides, like left and right brain, more on the CTO tech development side versus, amazing ideas, biz dev, marketing, creativity, and associate that more with the right brain. How would you classify yourself more as a left or right brain? And how have you either struggled to or been successful in combining both those sides of yourself, or how have you found solutions to fill those gaps as a part of the journey? Because typically you'll find one is really strong in the tech development side. One might be great with ideas, but it's rare. And it happens though often with, I think, individuals like yourself, entrepreneurs like yourself, where you're very much both.
It's been a really interesting process. Part of this, getting to understand myself and learning more about how I operate in the world, is trying to be really analytical about some of these things. So I remember when I was about 25, I did my Myers-Briggs test for the first time with a business coach that I was seeing at the time. And she read my results and she was like, "This is terrifying. You have operated in the world for so long as an extrovert, and displaying so many of these characteristics, when you're absolutely not. You are. I'm an introvert. I recharge by having, I want to have a night at home. I want to read a book. I need alone time. All of these things. And there was so many parts of my Myers-Briggs test where I had been living almost this sort of with a facade on of who I had to be in the world to make my first business, the modeling agency, successful. That I had started to test like that. It was changing how I guess inherently sort of lived and believed in myself, which it's quite terrifying, because it's very taxing. So it's hard to know now when I reflect on how much of my skills are left brain, right brain, and how much of them I've had to develop or overcompensate in certain areas. Like I'm very financially analytical, and I spend a lot of time in all of my businesses doing the financial modeling, for example, which is certainly not something that I suppose was inherently my area of skill set and expertise. But now it's something I really love and derive a lot of satisfaction out of, that sort of being able to overlay strategy with financial acumen to really map out the potential upside of initiatives in the business. And then, I always say to my team, I'm the least creative person. I'm the last person who wants to be coming up with subject lines for EDMs or giving them feedback on, I know what I like when I see it, but I'm not the sort of person that can get us there. So it's a really good question. I think I have mixes of both across both sides. I always sort of say what I'm really good at is problem solving, uniting people and resources around a problem and getting things done and moving at pace. So I think, it's a really interesting question, how much of that is natural proclivity and inclination to use a particular part of my brain, how much of it is skills learned along the way, and how much at a certain, I think, age and I guess professional part of my career, where I can be a little bit more choosy about the parts of what I take on. And so, there's parts of running a business that I know I really love, that I'm really good at, and that I thoroughly enjoy doing. And there's other parts that are not the best use of my skill set, and that I'm happy to access to someone else from day one.
Well, I love that. It's very admirable, because I feel that usually the financial, modeling, projections, all the different things in that sort of side of the business or space can be quite overwhelming, because obviously, particularly when you're going through due diligence for a merger or acquisition, sale, whatever, you have to, transparency is obviously key. Like there's no such thing as not having transparency in that space. But I think that it's a different type of creativity. And I like to think of entrepreneurs like yourself finding new waves, as you have with the financial modeling. Like it's a different type of creativity, but in many ways it's still a form of creativity, just like it might be for an engineer or developer to be deep in the code, and that's their outlet or that's their form of creativity. But for somebody like myself, that would be petrifying and overwhelming and all the things.
And it's really interesting that you say that, because I've been using a very similar sort of analogy with AI. I found a lot of people are in the same way that they are overwhelmed and terrified if they see an Excel spreadsheet and they have to go, oh my God, I've got to turn this into a financial model, or I need to, make all of these macros to spit out a certain scenario. A lot of people, I think, feel the same way about all of these advances in AI. And I'm like, no. Like as soon as you just stop feeling like it's something that's completely overwhelming and foreign to you. And if you sit down and go, what am I actually trying to do here? Like, what is the end game? And if it's like, I'm trying to actually measure the impact of hiring another salesperson in my business. And if you break it down into these tiny little pieces and you go, okay, well, realistically, how many sales meetings can that person take a month? On average, how many of those are going to convert to a client? It's actually quite easy to build a financial model when you demystify it. And I think AI is the exact same thing. If you go, okay, well, actually, what am I trying to learn with this tool? Or what is this tool designed to do? Okay, it can help with code completion, or it can build a website, with no code. Okay, what do I need to do? Learn, follow the steps, do some reading, watch some YouTube videos. It's actually really not that scary. So I think trying to make space in your life for learning and take a step back and not be overwhelmed by it, and go, I'm a really capable person. I'm smart. I can do these things, because I feel like otherwise you can be paralyzing.
For sure. I was going to say very, very good points, because I feel like part of the entrepreneurial journey is to obviously wear, but certainly embrace all the hats. You can't really shy away from any of them when it's your business. And you're obviously very much a doer, very hands-on. You like to make shit happen, get it done, which means that, you've been one of those individuals that's happily thrown themselves in. But that's probably a massive piece of advice that you just imparted, which is, even if you are continuing on that journey, you really do have to lean in. And AI is an interesting one. You may be aware that like my full-time focus job-wise right now is with an AI startup, Hannibal AI. And I kind of see, you see the polarized attitudes and perspectives, which is usually half glass full or half glass empty. And what I like, the reason why I entered the AI space, which is, it sounds like you have in the same sort of capacity or with that same perspective or attitude, which is that the sheer nature of AI is to solve business problems. It's to increase efficiencies. It's there to cut costs. It's there to level up. It's almost your best friend in crime to solve some of these issues and be a partner. Like if you're sitting around fretting like, oh my God, AI is going to take my job away. We're going to all turn into robots. Life's over. I mean, like just relax, take a chill pill, but you've got to lean in because unfortunately or fortunately, the world is heading in that direction. And it is about, to your point, leaning in, challenging yourself as an entrepreneur, not being afraid, even if it's even about simple stuff like communication, challenging your own ability to communicate and be transparent in that space. That can be a powerful adjustment in the entrepreneurial space. So just back to the influencer endeavor, it's really interesting because I worked in the influencer space many moons ago, and it's quite fascinating to see how much that space has evolved. Once upon a time, it was all about pay for play, the influencer marketing network stuff only, signing up to the platform, transacting through that. Then there were sort of the brand curations or like high touch experiences, which would sometimes not even equate to actual numbers, but be considered more of a brand or PR play. And then now with Gifted, you've, created this very specific niche focus, which is the core of what it's largely become, which is a different type of transactional marketplace of commerce, fashion commerce and all the rest. Was there any particular sort of inspiration around or any particular trigger, or did you just not see the trends and go, okay, there's not enough players in the space targeting this right now? What was it that really inspired you to create Gifted specifically?
Yeah, I think I saw the industry going in sort of splitting into two directions.
Mm-hmm.
There were platforms that were being developed that were incredibly sophisticated and had a huge number of tools available within them. Social listening, AI identification, a lot of things that were quite, I would say, heavy and cumbersome for the average marketer to use, and they had
Mm-hmm.
quite a high price point. And I'm sure I'm sure they're incredibly sophisticated tools and can do a lot. The general marketer is probably working with influencers maybe 3-4 times a year. They're probably not investing a huge amount of money out of their general marketing spend into influencer marketing. And these tools had a very, very high price point, monthly subscriptions, and the time it would take to adopt a platform and use it successfully was very high. It was a long investment for a brand. And the alternative was using a PR agency or a digital marketing agency who might run that for you, which I think there's been a shift towards more brands trying to bring that skill set in-house, because with influencers, I really do believe you need to move at pace and you need to build personal relationships. And so what I saw was this gap in the market for a tool that was a really, really easy to use tool that had a very clear USP that only tackled one part of your problem. We're not here to do AI identification of the best influencers for your paid marketing campaigns, or to manage payments, or be a project management tool, or X, Y, and Z, a big cumbersome
All the things.
platform. I wanted to build something that was really, really easy to use, that was very affordable for every brand, depending on at any stage of the life cycle of that brand, from a startup one-man band right through to a corporate. And that allowed you to do the piece of the puzzle that most brands really, really struggled with and that no one wanted to touch. So PR agencies and digital agencies don't want to work with influencers in a contract capacity. There's no margin in that for them. And the paid platforms don't want to work with influencers in a contract capacity as well. There's no commission structure designed in the platform for them. And no one represents micro influencers. And the big pain point for brands is finding these micro influencers who generally have an amazing ability to convert for a brand and actually drive sales and create really great UGC. And so I thought there's a real opportunity in the market here. It's underserved. There's all of these fantastic micro creators. And so we started minimum of 5,000 followers on Instagram or 10,000 on TikTok. right through to people with 2, 3, 4 million followers on platforms. So it's not just
Mhm.
designed for micro influencers, predominantly nano, micro, mid-tier creators, and the ability to find people who genuinely want to try and experience your product or service.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
otherwise, the only way to do that is trying to utilize your own audiences on social media. If you want to do a sampling campaign and gift product to people who genuinely want to receive it, because as you, I'm sure, well know as well, influencers are just inundated with products and services every day. I would come to the office and, I only have a small audience, 20,000, 23,000 on Instagram, but I would have, a pile of items that I've received over the last week on my desk, and feel so obliged to those brands who have sent me things, but
Mhm.
also going, this outfit doesn't fit me, or I can't take that supplement. I don't have, I can't, I'm lactose intolerant. I can't take this, or, I can't use that skincare, so you go, oh my gosh, these aren't things that I want or need, but I feel so obliged to, because it's
That's
cost them a huge
hilarious.
amount of money. And so I thought, God, this is a really broken system. Why isn't there a way for influencers to be able to put their hand up when they do genuinely want to try and receive a product? And on the
Yes.
flip side, for a brand to find people who are authentically engaged and deeply care about the brand, or excited about trying a new offering or trying a new service. So that was the sort of
Love
genesis of
that.
the idea.
Smart.
And
Yep, you're
thank
just a
you.
smart cookie, period. And just again, like the sheer nature of like being a problem solver, you just saw it and you're like, hold on a second, I'm gonna have
I
to
can fix this.
redesign and tear apart this outfit just to make it work, or remove
Yeah.
half the ingredients of this just to. So that's I love some of the best ideas come from just the organic need to problem solve. So that's wonderful. Congratulations on the business.
Thank
I'm going to
you.
ask an interesting one, which I feel is a majority problem to solve for like all startups, which is customer acquisition, but the journey to get there. And how do you master? And it's a journey. It's a journey. So there's probably
Oh
no
yeah.
such thing as
Oh yeah.
mastering, but for lack of a better word, like mastering or like working towards the perfect sort of business development strategy. How do you find the perfect customers? And like in your day-to-day world and ecosystem, off the back of your existing success, have you just been able to, one part of it, go back to past customers, brand relationships and all the rest to reintroduce? Or do you have a magic process you like to follow? Do you like to integrate a combination of PR? Do you have an amazing newsletter with thousands of contacts that you're able to leverage to announce the new business? Do you whatever, fill in all the gaps? So
Yeah.
love to hear more about your strategy, because I think this is where literally the biggest problem that I hear all the time about startups, like where do we get our next customer? How do I find my next whatever? And like knowing how to go
It's
about
the
it.
biggest challenge. It's the biggest challenge, isn't it? And I remember in the right fit, just desperately seeking some silver bullet solution, like that there would be one magic channel. And if I put
Yeah,
$10,000 into this, then I would get,
right.
$20,000 return.
Mm,
And, it took a long, hard slog to realize there's no silver bullet solution. It is, I always say, and I
mm,
only have experience in B2B businesses. So like direct to consumer, I can't speak to, but from a B2B perspective, and
mm-hmm.
building a SaaS
Yes.
business now, it is brutal hand-to-hand combat. So there are
Mm,
some things that I'm very fortunate to have deep brand relationships, so they're from my multiple other businesses, so that it was easier in that case to be able to go back to friendlies and introduce them, especially when we were very, very new and looking for test cases and things like that. LinkedIn, I'm a big LinkedIn fan, so the a very manual hand-to-hand combat of reaching out to people to schedule meetings. The tools now, between when I launched the right fit and now launching Gifted sort of 18 months ago, the tools are so much more sophisticated. So there's multiple
mm,
different platforms out there where you can easily look up people's company email addresses from the company website, or LinkedIn, and it identifies who the right stakeholders are. So that certainly made the process for our BDM team a lot easier, being able to, instead of having to just rely manually on contacting someone on LinkedIn, waiting 3 or 4 days to reply. So there's more sophisticated tools.
right.
Email outreach sequences has always performed really well for us, and spending time sort of split testing those and looking at what converts, what are the best
Mm-hmm.
ways to get someone
Mm-hmm.
through a funnel. reactivating customers that haven't subscribed, and things like that. So definitely email marketing, LinkedIn. We actually haven't done any paid acquisition for Hash Gifted yet, which is wild.
Wow.
So there's been no advertising,
Congrats.
no search, Meta. This building this platform, I was very, very conscious in building it with a clear SEO strategy in mind. So it was one of the things I got wrong with the right fit, is that just purely the structure of the platform and the website and the platform we chose to build it in was really not designed for SEO. And so I was very conscious in when we built Hash Gifted, every time a brand joins, it spins up a page for them with all of their detail listings, the gifting that they're doing, all optimized for SEO. So every single time a brand and a creator join, we're creating more and more pages that can be indexed by Google. So there was some small decisions like that meant we ranked really well on day one. And then, as you touched on, PR, I think, is really important. And I know that some brands sort of discredit maybe the importance of PR, but I really do think brand trust, and people trust people behind brands. And so I think hearing from founders is really important. I think being seen in the mainstream press is still something that consumers trust. And they look to that for validation, that this is a serious business, that, you know, it is a business that I can trust. You know, I've read about it in the AFR or whatever it might be. So we still definitely rely on PR. That's a big part of our strategy. And long form storytelling, you know, podcasts, I think, are really important. It's one of probably the last bastions of long form storytelling where you can capture attention. And then, of course, social media, being in the industry that we're in. And, you know, to be fair, it's a little bit like you know, when plumbers always have the worst plumbing at home, right? Like, I always joke to our team, like, there's so much we should be doing in social media and on, you know, we keep saying, you know, we've put together a Reddit strategy that we've never executed. You know, we've put together a community management strategy that we've never executed. We have a TikTok strategy. It's super time
so much.
I do always feel for brands. I'm great at telling people what they should be doing, but, you know, terrible at executing it at home. So
always
much more to
great
do.
at giving advice. Can write strategies for others all day long, but when it comes to my own thing, oh God, I'm lucky if I can get one LinkedIn post out a month personally.
Exactly.
You know, like,
do as I say, not as I do.
That's very good feedback and insights. I had a conversation with Kaylee Hamilton, who's a 2-time Emmy Award-winning producer on this week. It's actually the episode's coming out this Thursday, so tomorrow morning. Amazing. And she was just saying that, there's so many little tips and tricks in the world of media and PR these days, but there's nothing like a good old classic sort of TV appearance or, you know, classic sort of PR type play like that to build that trust. So it's interesting that we're still seeing the importance of the old world or old school PR media approach with the new school. And then, you know, watching how much LinkedIn, the likes of LinkedIn, has evolved. I remember when it first came out in Australia, I think I started using it in like 2004. And it was amazing. Then now in the States, I feel like it's full of so much spam. So it's very, very hard to navigate. And then with the security settings, people just like block everything so that they don't have to deal with 50,000 sort of paid inbox spammy things. And that's frustrating because it's otherwise a really, really great and tool, and to communicate stories and experiences like you have, which again, I want to get to in a sec. But
I have a bit of nostalgia for the old LinkedIn as well. You know, I just think, oh God, I used to have, I'm like, bring back the old LinkedIn. Yeah, it was such an incredibly valuable platform. I mean, I still love it. I still use it every day. But yes, there was the ability to create community and to see such deep, interesting thought leadership. I think we're in an even worse place now, where you just start seeing all of this AI generated blog posts and articles. Yeah. Thinking, oh, come on. People, we just want to see authentic storytelling, and we want to really hear from, you know, what's going on in you personally, professionally.
Yes. Absolutely. And, you know, a second part to the question, or follow-up question to the business development piece, the other piece that is on, you know, is a challenging one to solve, particularly with the emergence of ongoing DIY and or /AI platforms, is which platform do you choose to build on? I'm sure depending on the business, it's obviously a more obvious answer for some over others. But just as a part of as a female entrepreneur, going through that rigmarole, having worked in the tech space and launched and sold businesses involving tech historically, how have you, what's been your journey in assessing the right platform for scalability and sustainability to build on, and knowing that if you do sell this business or any other, business historically, is that going to be an easy transition for buyers and all the things? Like, share your gems in that whole space.
Yeah, it's really challenging. So I'm building a new business at the moment, and we're in the process of looking at learning management systems for that, because it will be an online learning platform. And it's really interesting. The platforms, when I first started, this was actually a COVID baby project that I had started, building the bones of. And now that I'm sort of coming up for air and coming back to it, the platforms have changed so much in such a short period of time. And it was very similar with Hash Gifted. So building Hash Gifted, I had a tiger team that I had spun out of the Right Fit that were working on the project. And so in many ways, I was limited to the technology that we could use, because I had an existing team of PHP Laravel developers. We had to build in a platform that we knew. And then making some conscious decisions around, one of my other businesses is built in, the front end is and the content management system is WordPress. And, the frustrations and limitations that I'd had with that business, I wanted to build in Webflow, because it would be slightly easier for our marketing team to be able to spin up pages that they needed without having to go through a development process. So, the tools and systems are changing so quickly. The platform that I'm building now, the business partner that I'm working on this with, literally spun up the website, no code software, in 3 hours, which is something that would have taken 6 months. It's an AI platform, like, just wild. So it's really hard. And I think my key learnings were, try and have a look at what else is popular in your market and industry, because in Australia, I was competing for software developers. And it depends, again, if you want to have a fully distributed team. With Hash Gifted, we have all of our team is, we do have 4 in Australia, but 2 of our software developers are in San Francisco and in Canada. So, it really made a difference to who we could hire, what we could get access to. But with the Right Fit, we really wanted to have all of our team on site in Australia for the pace of what we were building and how quickly we were moving. And the fact that I was a non-technical founder, whilst I had a CTO, the ability for me to be able to communicate, sit across the table from someone and say, this is what I need, this is how I need it to work, why can't I do this, X, Y, and Z. So have a look at what else is being used if you're building a marketplace or a SaaS platform. What are the best sort of platforms out there for that? What sort of code base should you be looking at?
That's definitely good advice.
And then who are you competing against? Because in Sydney, we were competing against Atlassian, Canva, some of the best in breed for access to talent. And so one, that's a really, really good thing okay, there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of engineers moving to this market available to work, and excited about taking on these opportunities. But 2, if you're competing against the same code base, and that was actually a benefit for us. We were building in the same platform as Atlassian and Canva. So we were looking for the same kind of developers who had, React, PHP, Laravel, blah, blah, experience. So that was great. We knew that there was going to be a plethora of developers available in that space. Yes, we were probably going to have to pay overs to lure them away from some of those, businesses that, were scaling so rapidly. But I knew we would have the right kind of talent base here. So don't pick something super, super obscure where you're not going to be able to find developers and you're going to be limited to, finding a very niche pool of talent to work with. But also just have a look at all of the new AI, no-code tools that are available, because you can. One of the things that we've decided with the new business that I'm building is, it's a learning management system, so it's a little bit easier. We were going to custom build something from scratch, and we did this with the Right Fit as well. We actually built the Right Fit, the first platform, just in WordPress, and people thought we were nuts. Spun something up really, really quickly, tested it. Once we saw that, yes, this is something that could have traction and it's worth investing in and building, we then went and actually built the platform. So we're going to do the same thing with the new business is, okay, use an off-the-shelf software, spin up a really quick and dirty website that with the no code software in 3 days, spin it up, see if we can get some interest, test some landing pages, run a few Facebook ads. Once we go, yes, this is, got the indications that it could work, then go and invest in actually building something custom.
Okay. Yeah. So you will mess around with and beta test a lot first before. That's great advice. Because one of the challenges here, like we see, is a lot of businesses will go for the cheaper offshore option, but then when it comes time to really think about businesses like sustainability and scalability and actual strategic decision making, those teams are not in market and like either by your side or like in a sort of city or place space where they can align with your longer term business goals and objectives and think along that road. So a lot of people get excited. Oh, well, I can, for only this amount of money, I can engage these developers to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z. However, they will very quickly find, well, shit, their skill set pit stops here, and all of a sudden this new platform, to your point, they're coming out every 5 minutes, and with AI, obviously, the faster it grows, the better it gets. And so we're going to continue to see rapid evolution, even again and again and again, like quadruple fold over and over.
Yeah.
And so like what is and who is like the right team to start with so that you can actually plan for the future in that way. And that's actually one of the biggest problems to solve.
I get asked this all the time, and I wish I had a solution for it, because I hear so many founders come to me and they say, I've spent $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 with this, with a digital agency or with this engineering firm, either onshore or offshore, and the product doesn't quite work, or it's not, it's breaking in these areas, and I don't know what to do. Do I have to keep, pouring more and more money into it? It was supposed to cost $30,000, but we're already at 150, and I don't know what to do, and I'm stuck and I'm scared. And it's really awful, because I always say I don't have a solution for that. There's, even as a fourth time founder, when we were building the digital app for the iOS and Android apps for Hash Gifted, we used an agency, and we had an internal product manager who is ex-Atlassian, ex-Canva. We had a CTO in-house, and we were purely using an agency to spin up the mobile apps, because we were moving at such pace. And even with that, it was such a painful experience, and costs blew out. And I was like, gosh, we're sophisticated people who know what we're doing. Imagine if we weren't, and we were going through this process. So it's really sad and really scary. And the only thing I can offer and say is, like, try and find either a CTO or someone who's walked that path before, that you can bring in house if you can't afford them, some sort of equity deal or something, because the amount you will save and the pain you will save along the way of going through, potentially building a product that you have to completely throw out and start again is just, not worth it.
It's devastating. And that is why the startup and entrepreneurial journey is often rife with challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are so many different layers to it, from burnout through to just what you shared, being like having spent 2 years chewing, like, through the nose investments and just burning through cash and still not making the progress that you anticipated. I mean, it can be a truly devastating journey. And you have to have an unbelievable backbone and great people around you. And part of it is luck. It's not actually always intelligence. You see a lot of founders have a lot of success, and you just think, how did your company sell for $300 million when, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes it's luck of the draw too, timing, all the things. But having said all of that, what have been some of the biggest challenges you have personally faced that, have really worked for, but also against your journey, and how have they shaped you?
Yeah, it is such a wild ride being an entrepreneur, for sure. And I think you're at the whim of, at a macro level of the markets of, when I launched The Right Fit, marketplaces were like the hot thing. And so, we happened to be in the right sector at the right time, the right kind of business model. And I was very, very conscious building Hash Gifted. I wanted to build a SaaS business. And because of the learnings of going through an exit and going, okay, I now understand how multiples work. I know I'm building this business for a very particular exit. And so I was picking a very particular type of business to build. And so I think there's so many challenges from a day-to-day basis of, waking up and having to deal with, as the founder and entrepreneur, ultimately the buck stops with you. So if you've got customers that are unhappy, if you've got a churn problem, if you've got a customer acquisition problem, so you're trying to build a team at pace. The type of people you need in that boat with you is going to change so quickly, because the marketing manager that you need today is not the marketing manager you're going to need in 6 months' time, because business is going to be growing so quickly. So you're trying to build an adaptable team, or a team that can learn new skills and scale with you, and can deal with the uncertainty of day-to-day living and breathing a startup. I think that can be incredibly challenging. You're trying to deal, if you've raised capital, you've got stakeholders. So you're dealing with, shareholders who have a view and lens of the world, who have a particular outcome in mind, that you're trying to deliver for as well. And then you're dealing with, customers in a marketplace. You've got customers on both sides. In Hash Gifted, we have customers on both sides, right? We've got our creative talent, and then we have our subscribers, our paying customers, the brands. So, you're dealing with that. And then you're dealing with the changing nature of technology. The number of times we've woken up and been banned from the App Store for, a particular reason, or our integration with Meta has been revoked, for some reason. And so you're like, great, what challenge does today present? So
correct. And even when you have your whole bloody day planned, you might have to recalibrate your whole day, your whole week, just to focus on this unexpected issue that may arise. Yes, it can be very crazy.
Firefighting, exactly.
Putting out. I hope you have a little firefighter outfit in your closet for Halloween, or for some, special sexy time with the right person.
Exactly.
So who do you lean on for some of your support? How do you nurture your being? What's your approach to health, wellness, mental, emotional, physical, all the rest amidst all of this journey? How do you balance yourself, amidst all these things that can arise?
As you said, it's really hard too, because you can have best laid plans, right? You can say, I'm going to go to the gym every single day, and I'm very conscious of taking care of my physical health. I have an amazing
you're very
longevity.
Beautiful. You are a picture of health. You look, skin, glowing eyes, all the things. Yeah.
I invest a lot of time in taking care of my physical health. So longevity doctor, and a psychologist, a business coach, all of those things. But I'm also very good, I think, at putting my hand up and asking for help. And I have an amazing team of mentors around me, and people that I can go to with particular problems. And I think a part of that comes from the visibility and transparency and honesty and vulnerability. And I don't know, that's not something that I set out, intentionally to do, but I think it just naturally came from probably building a technology company and being a non-technical founder. So very early in that journey, I was like, I was not going to fake it till you make it. I think that was a wise decision. I immediately put my hand up and said, I don't know what I'm doing in these particular areas, and I'm really willing to learn. And I went and did so many courses, and learn everything I possibly could, and would go and do deep research on payment gateways or SEO strategies or whatever it might be. But then I would put my hand up and I would ask for help, and I would go to a specialist and I'd say, look, can I have 45 minutes of your time? I've got these very specific questions. I've done the legwork in these areas, but I really need help on X, Y, and Z. Can I please have some time with you to work through those things? And, I think people really appreciate and respect that there's no, I'm being completely vulnerable. I'm asking for help. They're a domain expert. I'm not coming and just going like, can you give me some advice on SEO? That's a massive waste of their time. But I'm coming with a very specific need and ask and request.
Yes.
And then I would go and execute their feedback, and I would come back and say, okay, I've done these 3 of the 4 things that you recommended. I'm stuck on the 4th. Can I have some more help with that? And I think people really invest. I believe inherently, despite some evidence to the contrary, at a macro level and in my personal life at the moment, I believe inherently people are good, and they want to help others, and they want to see other people succeed. And I certainly do this for other, not just founders, but other people. I'm very happy to give back. I'm very happy to mentor people. And on the flip side, so many people have done that for me on my journey. And so I think asking for help, putting your hand up, being respectful, obviously, of people's time, but yeah, I think has just added so much value for me. And the number of people who have got in the trenches with me when shit has really hit the fan has been phenomenal. I'm endlessly grateful for that.
I love that. And it sounds like a very sort of balanced life, business, personal, professional portfolio of how you manage things. And I think that that's critical. We overlook the importance of just balance. Not everything's going to be perfect. Sometimes it's going to be more of this, more of that, whatever. But at the end of the day, like achieving that balance is like critical to managing the highs and lows of, startup life.
Yeah, I still
Which
still don't quite have the balance right. I need to kind of figure out. My
an
personal
aspirational
life is.
thing.
I have an amazing mentor who's like, if you put in even 25% of the time into your personal life as you did into your commercial and professional life, you would have that solved. It's
Yes.
definitely a key learning of like, I'm really good at
Yes.
business. I really, the more time and energy you
Yeah.
invest, generally things go up and to the right. Personal lives don't work like that. So it's a key learning for me that doing things that you're maybe not as good at and feeling the discomfort and sitting with it anyway is part of this year's project.
I think it's incredibly admirable when a founder, CEO like yourself is able to be vulnerable and lean in, because I think half the time it's even hard just to get transparent communication from people in the space, just because their brain is going a million miles an hour focusing on too many different things and they're not able to necessarily articulate. But you articulated a recent experience in that LinkedIn post, which did catch my attention, just because I thought, God, I personally have been in so many instances where I've either wanted to put people on blast and fantasized about it, or wanted to communicate and express certain things, but certainly not had the guts to. Now, as an immigrant in America, there's always that residual fear of, oh my God, your life, your visa is going to be retracted. Somebody's going to rip your life out from underneath your feet if you dare speak up. What happens if, you never know who people know, and like what happens if you piss the wrong person off, and da 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 da. And so there's a degree of the feeling of being or feeling like you have to stay silenced. But congratulations on the post. And I really mean that. It sounds so silly that I'm congratulating you on a social media post. But from the perspective that you were able to just like clearly and articulately express that situation. And so did you question putting it out, and what part of the situation are you able to share as a part of this experience? Because it's obviously been an impactful time and moment for you as part of the hash gifted, experience.
Yeah, and it was something I sat with for a long time. And essentially, yes, as part of a restructure of this business, I brought in some investors. And there was a particular investor who, we just don't see eye to eye on what the business needs in terms of the strategy, in terms of investment, resources, time, direction of the company, blah, blah, blah. And, we went through a lot of different processes to try and resolve that, through mediation, through lawyers, through, bringing in external stakeholders to just try and, get aligned on what the business really needs. And it got to a place where it was just sort of untenable. And I had a lot of sleepless nights, probably for a good 6 months, really thinking about, what do I want to do about this? How much conflict am I willing to tolerate in my sort of day-to-day life? What's the best use of my time, energy, effort? Where can I have the biggest impact? What's best for the business? How much am I willing to compromise myself for what the business needs? It was a lot of sort of thinking and deep
Yes.
soul and soul searching, and going and seeing and speaking to a multitude of advisors and people whose opinions I sort of deeply admire and respect, and to get to the place where to step away from the business essentially. And before I did the post, I really I labored over what to share and how much to share and how visible and transparent to be. And the big decision really came back to, I feel like sometimes I can contribute to the problem of the over glamorization of the entrepreneurial journey. And I try and frequently talk about, you know, it's really, really hard. It comes at an extremely high
Yes, it is.
cost, you know. But I think a lot of what people see, you know, if they've followed my journey
Yes.
for the last sort of 20 years, is like, gosh, awards and, you know, raising all of this capital and having a
Mhm.
successful exit and, you know, wow, growing the team and, you know, all of these positives that you hear. And you don't hear a lot of the like teary
That's
nights,
right.
or, you know, bonfire situations or having a key team member headhunted in a critical time or a
Mm.
deal falling over. You know, people don't publicly talk about those things as a general rule.
Mhm.
And I think it's
Yeah.
really disappointing because I think it means frequently for other entrepreneurs, but just generally for people in the world, they go, God, am I the only one who's having this horrendous experience?
Yes. Yes, it's a very isolating journey,
am
an
I the only
extremely
one who's
isolating journey.
fucking this up
Mhm.
on a day-to-day basis? Is everyone else's journey just always up and to the right and sunshines and rainbows, and I'm the one that seems to, you know, had a shareholder, you know, dispute or had a key team member resign or had a, you know, whatever. And I thought, you know what, I really need to be honest and transparent in this process and
Mhm.
say, look, this is why I'm leaving, this is what happened. You know, I'm still the majority shareholder, I'm the biggest creditor. I want no, it was my idea. I built the business. I love the business. Of course, I want it to go on and succeed. But at some point, I have to accept that there's only so much I can do in this scenario, and I have to step
Mm.
away and go and focus my time and energy on something where I can have impact. And I wanted to the number. You know, I've probably received 50 or more direct messages from people who have said, oh
Yeah.
my God, I've been through the
Wow.
exact same thing and thank you for
Yes.
sharing. Or, oh my God, I'm in the exact same scenario right now and I don't know what to
Mhm.
do. Can I please, you know,
Mhm.
be, you know,
Tough.
us? And I'm like, God, I'm so grateful to those people who have been vulnerable enough to reach out and say, gosh,
Yes.
me too. I really, and it's, and I really wanted people to know that they're not alone and that it does happen and that, you know, the journey of building a business is not all sunshines and rainbows. And
Oh, hum.
even being a multiple, multi-time founder, you know, I've been through endless shareholder agreements over the years. And, you know, even I thought I could navigate the situation. And sometimes you go, you know what, you actually can't. There's certain things that, you know, you get to a point and you go, I've got to step away for my own sanity, for the best commercial use of my time. You know, so yeah, it's been a wild ride. I've learned a lot. And it's really good to know that it had a positive impact on other people and that I hope it's helped,
1,000%.
yeah, others sort of feel less alone.
100%. So number one, yes, you're guilty for making the startup journey, entrepreneurial journey looking easy, fun, fabulous,
Shiny,
gorgeous, all
exciting
the things.
awards, and I somehow managed to still, you know, go on holidays and like, you don't see
Right.
the
Yeah. So
you know,
you're
just being
definitely
glued to your
guilty for
desk
that,
on
Taryn.
it's
But
single-handedly all
you
my
are
fault.
no, no. But yes, you could literally not be any more correct on the fact that it is just wrought with challenges. I mean, um, I put out just a spoken word, like a commentary piece, which I do want to put on camera because I think it will be more engaging, talking about the realities, like the pros and cons and realities of startup life, to literally do exactly what you just shared, which is to neutralize the experiences in the conversation.
Mm.
Because I think not only just people put astronomical pressure on themselves, and almost in God, like 60% of instances I see startup like founders and whatever experience burnout where it really actually changes them like altogether. Some have taken, I've seen like years recover. You know, some have been just devastated by the outcomes of some of the situations that they've faced. And the crazy thing about the journey is people have, it's almost like there's a lack of respect for the startup experience, yet the toughest people are the ones that take that leap into the journey to really confront their ideas, have a crack, and go about it. And obviously some succeed and others don't, and that's okay. But the thing is that failure is a massive part of the journey.
Totally.
And to your point, unless we do speak up transparently about some of these experiences, we don't know. People don't know. Because I know that when I was going through these startups, I was absolutely relying on success. And then in a certain environment, something happened 1,000% outside of my control, but I still blamed myself. The next time I was like, no, this one, this is it. This is the one. This is the da 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 da. Same thing. Partners in another country outside of my control fell apart. They dissolved the USA, office. I almost died. I was just devastated, and once again, still blamed myself. I think after that particular experience, I was like, Georgii, this is not about you. Like, it's about you. Like, your work is still valuable and important, but there are just some things you simply cannot control, and it's okay. And you have to let it go. And you did your best. And oh my God, incredible learning experiences, and you grow astronomically through them. But it's one of the reasons why I started Unfiltered, is to have more of these unfiltered dialogues with amazing, incredible individuals like yourself that can really shed truthful light on what this journey is about and what it takes to succeed. And sometimes it's just, the journey is just not going to be as you anticipate, and it's certainly not going to be perfect.
I couldn't agree more. And what you were touching on there is just so right, because you have to put, for it to succeed, you have to put 110, 20, 30, 50% of yourself into the company. Mm-hmm. And the delineation between what the company is and who you are as a person, you become so enmeshed, and it becomes so much a part of who you are. Your in many cases, your personal brand is attached to the company, your sense of worth, all of these things become enmeshed. And so it's very, very hard to go, this is not about me. This is an entity. This is a company that can succeed or fail on its own. And it doesn't reflect on me as a person, that's as right. my self-worth, or, and that's really hard, because it's, in many cases, it is but it is entirely my idea. It is entirely my execution. It is entirely, so it's incredibly talented. I'm so grateful that you're doing this, because I think having these unfiltered conversations where people can be really raw and really honest, and that there's no glamorization of, the wins are amazing, the highs are really high, but the lows are really low, and that, we need to talk about that too.
Yes, we do. And, on that note, thank you so, so much. My focus is going to be on elevating the voices and experiences of women only in Unfiltered. So I just, you've been an amazing guest. I'm glad I reached out, and, just the perfect guest and voice. So thank you so, so much for being on. And I look forward to continuing the conversations with you, babe, and then hopefully seeing you in Europe, mid this year, considering we missed one another last year.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome.
Unfiltered. Like you're in another world, like you zoned out. You know what I'm saying?